Great skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lewis.
Welcome to the Rangers Journey.
Yes, hello, a very warm welcome to one and all. My name's Andrew and this is the Rangers Journal. 1 down, 8 to go is the title of tonight's pod. 3 points, still third place, but 3 points off top now as we've closed the gap on Hearts. Lots of threes there, but they do say it's a magic number, I guess, don't they? Welcome to Monday's Rangers Journal podcast. Tonight we're going to be looking back at the win at St Mirren, our first away win in 4 and only our second win in 6 against St Mirren. So tonight, to talk about the game and if we are well and truly alive in this title race, will be, first of all, Ross. How you doing, Ross? You looking well, mate?
Thank you, Andy. Good to see you. Good to see you, Ryan and Deano. Hello, everyone at home. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. I've got a couple more weeks of being... of not being a father, so that has crept up. My partner is due very soon, so that's an exciting time in my life. I must say I've kind of had, for once in my life, Rangers has kind of been a secondary thought, but luckily from the weekend there, it was pleasing to see us get the victory. So yeah, let's keep this rolling forwards.
Ah, that's good. Another Jer into the world. Absolutely perfect. So, yeah, good to see you, Ross, mate. Good to see you, Ross. And next, well, Dino, you're looking very, very astute tonight, my good man. How you doing? You all right?
Very well, thank you, buddy. How are you doing?
Nah, I'm not too bad. I was running late for the pods. I was sprinting home about 2 miles in jeans and stuff. So if I look a bit sweaty, that is the reason why. It's not because I've got excited seeing Dino. But there we go. And last but not least, Ryan, are you looking well, mate? How you doing?
Doing fine, buddy. I'm doing fine. Looking forward to picking apart what was a difficult game, and both on the eyes and on the park as well. So, but let's get in about it.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect word for that game yesterday. A difficult game, but we did come out of it the better than we normally usually would. So don't forget, guys, tonight's pod, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, is proudly sponsored by the good guys over at the Bluebells Bar in Puerto del Carmen in glorious Lanzarote. When you're over there in the sunny Spanish Canary Islands, you'll always find a warm welcome at the only Rangers bar in Puerto del Carmen. You can take the family in, eat, drink, chill, and party, do all of the above. And yes, of course, they do show every Rangers game live. So there's nothing better than watching the Bears in the scorching heat. So when in Lanzarote, do pop in and say hi. And of course, guys, don't forget, we do have an Etsy store. So if you want some merchandise, just above my head, there's a QR code and that'll take you to the Etsy store. Or if you're on Etsy, type in the Rangers Journal, all one word. There's some absolutely fantastic merchandise on there, some really good Rangers wear. And you'll be able to help the pod in the process. So, guys, we got 3 points. Our first away win of this. I was about to say of the season. It feels like the season. Our first away win since January. It's been a little bit of a stuttering time at Rangers with our away form. It's been a weird few weeks, but of course we are still in the title race. So let's have a look back at the match report from last night. Big kudos to Doug for putting this together. So, of course, you can see Rangers are in the orange there. Lots of orange on that, which is a good indicator of kind of how the game's gone. Ross, is there any kind of key stats that you'd pick out of there that you would look at and go, that was quite surprising? Or is it kind of just as you saw with the eye test yesterday?
Yeah, look, I think... The one I would say, which, I mean, Doug's covered literally every base on here, but it was actually the XG that I saw that's not on here, which I saw. Maybe the big chances probably relates to the same number, but the XG, I think it was, I did have it up 2.36. So I think this season we've actually been overperforming our XG. So we've been scoring more goals than our XG would dictate that we probably should have. I think that's been a consistent theme. So it was interesting to see us creating quite a lot of big chances, but not finishing them, which I thought was quite interesting. It didn't feel, Andy, like it was a too much of a challenge. I don't think we really got out of kind of second gear. I don't think there was any real dramatic periods of sort of 5 minutes of sustained pressure, which can be something that has sort of given us issues before this. And you know, potentially, especially towards the end of the game, We've had moments where, we've been under the cosh and you felt like we're creaking at the back a bit. Never really got that opinion. Didn't feel as though we were really under threat. At the same time, I didn't think we were particularly potent in the final third. But yeah, I mean, it'd be good to get your thoughts as well, Andy, specifically on the formation, really, because obviously we've tried this one a few times, haven't we? And it feels as though it's just kind of maybe run its course a bit with the two up top. I don't know, maybe using it every game sort of loses that impact.
Yeah, I think you've hit a key point there, Ross. We have been excited by this kind of 4-2-2-2. Chimiti does need somebody with him up top. I think that is clear. But based on recent games, it's not necessarily working in the way that we would like it to. I think you're right, because you look at things like the set pieces. We were fantastic with the set pieces when Scott Fry came in, but people have worked it out a little bit, I think. So they've kind of started to stagnate a little bit. I think that the real key is here keeping things fresh. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily completely changing it up every single game, but you might want to maybe with certain players, use some to their best qualities, like maybe get Raskin there's that little bit more forwardly advanced, maybe get a formation that might accommodate that a little bit. But to be honest, even though, yes, it looks like it has stagnated a little in the past couple of games, we still won yesterday. So arguably, it was a winning formation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, I've got a question for you as well. I think when we first started with the 4-4-2, we saw that there was almost the defenses were sort of second guessing, and what the majority of teams would play against would have that third man in midfield, but they'd have to drop in to almost mark up the second attacker. Would you say that this feels like it's a little bit overkill, and maybe that third man in midfield going beyond the striker would be a better unlock against the stubborn defense rather than just having two up top the whole time?
Yeah, I think that's there, and I think Mikey Moore's probably your best option for that. And the number 10, just somebody that's got a little bit of freedom just to kind of roam, if you like. I feel with the two, particularly because of Raskin's positional discipline, I feel as if we create a lot of gaps in the middle of the park. And I think if we actually come up against a team who have a real stalwart, centre midfielder, number 6, who can actually control play, pick out a creative pass, I think we could find ourselves in a bit of difficulty. So I think it's something that, yes, it has ran its course, but of the three strikers that we've got, I don't see anyone who I think's got enough about them to play as the sole striker. I think Chimiti needs that help. I don't see that from Nadiri. Mahovsky's that far out the picture just now. It's incredible. So I think he's doing this through necessity, but I would be very much open for a plan B, if you like, because I do think on occasion when it's not working, I don't think we've got a plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? That's the key point now, isn't it? Because we're at this crunch time of the season now, aren't we, Dino? You look at this and I know it's that cliche. We keep hearing it every week as a cup final now. And to be fair, with Rangers, we don't generally handle that type of pressure too well. But that game's been described yesterday as a bit drab, a little bit nervy. I even thought it was a bit nervy at points yesterday, but watching it back earlier on today, it wasn't as nervy as I remember. I think the nerves are coming in from what you're used to seeing, aren't you, Dino? You see this, you get to, because it was around about 60 plus minutes and St. Mirren started to come into it a little bit more, didn't they? And you're starting to think, oh, they're going to get that one chance, aren't they? And they're going to score. We're not going to put this game to bed. So how did you feel with this yesterday? Let's look at the squad. So obviously, Jock Butland in goal, James Tavernier, Dija, Fernandez, Romans in the back four, Raskin, Chukwani, Murgasama, and Chimiti and Nadiri there. Was there any tweaks you'd probably make to that kind of starting 11 going into this, mate? Or are you fine with that?
To be quite honest, because Diomande was injured, Diomande would have been the only one I would have had in that starting 11. And to be fair, on the right-hand side, again, who are you going to play? Out of form Scovolson or out of form Gassama? So it's a flip of the coin for that at the moment. You want Olsen to be obviously firing all cylinders to make the marquee signature permanent in the summer, but he's not been playing particularly well. So flip of the coin, because both have been very, very poor. So, and I think for you make a valid point in terms of the two up top. It's a tricky one because there's no synchronicity between them at all. There's no cohesion, and you kind of need that for your two strikers, don't you? And especially at a team like Rangers, where you're going to be creating more chances. And I think for me, a way to get around that would be having Chermiti in the 10 and the Derry up top, because I think Chermiti has that in his locker, bringing people into play, can hold the ball up well. And we've not seen, everybody's complaining about Nadiri and, he'll come good and stuff. Well, give him a chance playing on between the centre halves or on the centre half shoulders and things like that. He just doesn't seem to be doing it. He's doing a lot of groundwork and a lot of runabout because of exactly what you said about the lack of discipline that Raskin has. Now, Raskin was played further ahead. Started the first half, was further ahead, wasn't he? And he's not done that since end of last season. And it worked well because we had two other midfielders in there supporting him. It didn't really help the fact that I've been crying out for him to be playing further ahead. But if you're going to be playing him further ahead, you needs to be having two players behind him, as far as I'm concerned, because he has no discipline. So, bit of a tough one. I appreciate that Real wanted to try something different with having Raskin a bit further on, but it, as Ryan said, it just holes everywhere. So, in terms of all of that, like we'd said, a good team would have picked that apart easily. So lucky for us that St Mirren are in a bit of a mess at the moment, and managerless and whatnot, that we were able to go there and get a 1-0 win with a very poor side, really, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I think that relationship with Chermiti and the Derry, I think it's still growing a little bit. I've seen flashes and glimmers, but we are looking for something a little bit more kind of impactful and urgent at the minute. So I can see where you're coming from there, mate. We'll come back to this in a little bit because there might be some little bits we'll put out there. Great work by Doug by putting this together, but Doug, less of the green, please, mate. Less of the green, eh? Only joking. But there we go. Right, so when the game started itself, we were quite advanced. I thought we were looking to create some bits. Looking at the St Mirren team, obviously something's been picked up in the comments there from Baron Loyal. We struggled because St Mirren play three centre-backs against the two strikers. That probably was the plan that they were going to go with from the outset. I think we all felt with King, Gogic and Freckleton and that kind of back three. Gogic, who always turns into a literal brick wall when we play, generally speaking. But of course, they did flood the midfield. Richardson, Donnelly, Devaney, O'Hara and Tanza with Phillips and Lundundu up front. Not the strongest St Mirren side we've seen in a long time, obviously under interim manager Craig McLeish for yesterday, as there has been a change afoot there. Some of the kind of key points from early on in that game. Now, again, it's another kind of game that we had where really, even though there are chances created, there's not a lot of fantastic football or chances. We did dominate. It does seem to be that kind of middle to front part where things just aren't firing on all cylinders at the minute. But Ross, I'm trying to word this now. Were you more encouraged by the control Rangers had in spells, or were you worried by the familiar pattern of kind of finding to fill that killer second goal and letting the game drift, if you understand where I'm coming from?
I think we have to just take a step back and look at this game in context, which is off the back of two completely demoralizing games against our biggest rival, already having drawn two league games before that. So we haven't been on the sharpest of form at the minute, and I think that was clear. I think there was a lot of sort of misplaced passing or aimless passes or balls going out of play. I thought towards the end, Mikey Moore looked a bit like he was a bit lost. I thought there was a few instances where we just didn't look confident. And that's fine. That will happen, and hopefully that's kind of that behind us now. We just needed to win, Andy, and I think it was just about getting the 3 points. Yes, there was a moment, probably I think it was being called out on co-coms by Scotty Arfield quite a bit, saying, look, when this gets into the final 20 minutes, it's going to be nervy, it's going to be shaky, and we've seen this 1,000 times before, which we have. Luckily, we were stout and defended well, and were up to the challenge. And look, they didn't really look like challenging at all. If anything, it looked like us that was going to score. So on a different day, maybe that's a 3-0 job, and everyone's sat here sort of slightly differently. I do think, for what it's worth, that in terms of the starting lineup, that Rule actually probably did get it wrong. And my question to you probably earlier was leading, maybe in a sense, because I feel as though we are trying to overplay this 2 up top to try and dominate the centre backs and occupy them, to allow Mikey Moore and Gassama to be slightly more cutting. But I think what you do miss out on is, and I mentioned him there before, is the impact of a player playing a position like Scotty Arfield would have done, which is where your striker drops in and the man goes beyond. And that's how you pull apart big, cumbersome defenders. So I think we need to be a little bit more creative in the way we're doing it. I know Nadiri is playing off Chimiti, but I think both of them are an archetypal hold-up man, rather than a sort of a dynamic man that goes beyond and sort of plays that kind of the lung-busting run beyond. So look, we it was mission accomplished in terms of what we were trying to do, but at the same time, it could have been a little bit more comfortable in the end. But it's 3 points, and the results from the weekend have played out nicely. They could have been slightly better, yes, elsewhere, but that's fine. We've still got time to rectify it, and it's back in our hands. So I'm feeling good.
Do you know what? Yeah, I do agree about the Scott Arfield thing, and we've never replaced him. That guy that just kind of is right there at the edge of the box, just somebody that makes that run. We miss that so much. And obviously we've got great players like Mikey Moore, who's very good at kind of pulling the ball one way and kind of getting tight into to create some space. But yeah, we so miss that. My God, Scotty Arfield, get him 10 years younger. That'd be fantastic. Well, of course, there was early on in the game, 11 minutes in, there was a controversial incident, Ryan. Romans with a fairly decent in-swinger from the corner. Raskin connects with a header. Comes off the outstretched arm of Gogic, which was outstretched, by the way, despite some reports saying it wasn't. Some said it was by his side. No, it was outstretched. But the caveat, I guess, though, is that his arm was already outstretched before the header came in. However, it did stop the header going on target. 2 questions I'm kind of going to ask you, Ryan. Is that a penalty? And what is a handball anymore? Because I'm confused.
Probably one of the most impossible questions in football at this moment in time. If you look, I don't necessarily believe that it's a handball, penalty, all the kind of shouting and bawling that's going on about it. However, if you look at the game up at Dundee, I think it was the Dundee derby at the weekend, if that's a handball in that game, then we should have had a hand. And all we're asking from referees is a level of consistency and a level of fairness that eliminates anyone who thinks that there's an agenda against our club or an agenda for a certain club. When you see silly decisions like that, and there's no excuse, you can't turn around and say, I had it at a bad angle, the ball was moving too fast. There's cameras everywhere, and there's 2 assistant referees, video assistant referees that can pull this back and say, I'd like you to go to the monitor and just have one more relook at that before you let the game carry on, and just be 100% confident in your decision that you don't think that's a handball, considering the fact that his arm was outstretched and the ball was on its way to go. So there was one earlier on in the season, I think it was Lewis Mayo handballed for Kilmarnock against Celtic, and the whole thing about it was that it came up off his leg, I think, and hit his arm. And I think the whole thing about it is that that's apparently not a handball. If it comes off one part of your body onto your hand, it's deemed not. But it's this whole thing that they call consequence. So what are the consequences of the hand being there? That, would the ball have found its way to go? Would the ball have found its way to an attacking player who had a clear shot and goal? So it's just rubbish. It's as simple as that, and it's the level of inconsistency that it's annoying. I don't think there's any club that play within Scotland who have got VAR that could turn around and say they feel as if they've had a fair crack at it. Because I think every team, on one occasion or other, will have cause to complaint for it. But for me, I think it's It's handball. The ball's going there. It's there. I think it's the right rule for the sport. Don't know. Can't make my mind up for it, but it's just the level of inconsistency that's just causing the problems.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree because I'm one of these sticklers that I like to read the rules and stuff. Yes, I sound like a prefect. Yes, I was a prefect at school, but I sound like one of these people. But you have to get this understanding of the way things work, and then you can take a kind of objective look at something and go, right, there you go. However, the problem is, with a lot of these calls, they are far too subjective, aren't they? It's all interpretation. We keep seeing good examples of referees at some of these panels that will go, oh, the panel voted in favour, let's say 5-6. You're like, oh, sorry, voted 6-5, and you're like, well, that shows that it's not clear, it's not obvious. You look at, obviously, people have made some comparisons to Sterling's handball in the Old Firm League game, which, don't get me wrong, yes, the shot's going in, it's on target, his arm's already out, he couldn't do much about it. Much like Gogic, yes, it was slightly further out, but they're quite similar, aren't they?
Well, when your body's in a natural position because of how, when the hand's in a natural position because of how you're making your body in terms of defending, then it's just leaves everything really to the to the imagination, and everybody is constantly debating it week in, week out, all across Scottish football. And obviously, it's not just the Scottish League that's happening in. But as I was saying before we came on, I know you're slightly younger, Ross, but you'll be able to remember that the handball rule was just stayed the same for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, for the last 10, 15 years, it seems every single season they change the ruling on it. And there's an old saying, don't fix something that isn't broken. Do you know what I mean? Like, with the technology that we've got now, obviously we're still a bit far behind in this country, but elsewhere, the technology that we've got, you can see if a handball is deliberate. Like, if somebody's running or they're sliding to, make a block, their hand's part of where they're going, that's not really. But do you know what I mean? If somebody's turned around and they're actually deliberately handballing it, you can tell. So this, I think they've just got to make every single handball a penalty, and then that's the only way I think you're going to be able to have consistency. And the fact that, I think because were we not one of the top teams that've got the most decisions like that against us in the league this season? I think when you're chasing a league title and had the season that we've had, it just makes all the fans even more annoyed and oppressed by the ruling that we seem to get week in, week out. And because it's Rangers, everything is magnified and talked about, and it just really heightens to the decision that gets made and the emotion of all the fans.
Dean, I was just thinking as you were saying about the handball rule. Do you think there should be because you mentioned that you should be able to determine whether it's deliberate, and therefore that should be the metric of whether it is or not, the sort of the leading element that decides it. What about distance? Because we saw with Dujon Sterling the other day against Celtic, and I watched it back and I thought it's extremely harsh that it's that close. Do you think it should be anything within 2 foot that's clearly, and the ball is moving quicker than the speed of a hand would be able to move away? Because you need to think as well, that is clearly an impact here. Then it simply can't be a handball because the person has no ability to move their hand out of the way. Yeah, and on what you were saying about me talking about the years gone by, the reason that they brought this rule in was because there was, people were debating if handballs were deliberate or not, and because there was that much, a disparity in people's opinions, then they started changing the rule. But what you're saying, Ross, and if you're like Sterling and you're going to block a shot and your legs elevated, your hands are going to be up to balance yourself.
It's only natural. And there's no way on earth that he can move his hand out of the way. Yeah, the shot was going on target. There's no disputing that. But it doesn't matter if it was on the the edge of the box or it's in the 6-yard box. It's still impossible for him to get his hand out of the way. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, so because that, in my opinion, it shouldn't have been a penalty, but the ruling says that is a penalty. So in terms of to make things consistent, they should just give every handball as a penalty, regardless of what it is, because that's the only way we're ever going to get any sort of consistency in this country and stop these debates on our podcast every Monday.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Can I come in there?
Of course you can, mate. Jump in.
I think also you got to remember how poor a referee Stephen McLean is as well. I think it's, you've got to, there's been a couple of incidents so far this season that I can remember just off the top of my head. Lawrence Shankland's handball at Ibrox was Stephen McLean. He was the referee that day, where Lawrence Shankland started playing a different sport on the pitch. And there was also the one at Fir Park just a couple of weeks ago there. Now, I'm sitting right on the very back row of Fir Park, miles away from the incident, and when the boys clattered into, I think it was Tav or Moore, they basically seen him sent off. Straight away, I turned around to my mate and goes, that's a red card. 100% that's a red card. And McLean is a professionally qualified referee. He's only 20 yards away from it and he's not sent him off. It took the VAR referee to actually send him off. So I think that's possibly part of it as well, is the quality of the individual who's refereeing the game, because for me, he's not got it. McLean in particular, the boy Ryan Lee, I don't really rate him as a referee. But there is a couple of half-decent referees within it. But if we don't get one of them on a match day, you know for a fact that we're going to be up against it.
It's tough. I think when we have the majority of the possession, majority of the chances, the chances of an error is always going to be higher because we're in those situations. We have more touch in their box. The actual strikes and headers and things going towards goal are going to be greater for us. So therefore, it feels like we're disproportionately hit. And you know what? Looking at some of the results yesterday, some of the decisions yesterday, notably, one later on in the game, which I'm sure Andy will touch on in a little bit. I do feel as though we've been slightly unfortunate these past few weeks and months, certainly. But Andy, Ryan touched on kind of VAR there, and I guess the point of it, the purpose of having this here is to support and correct clear and obvious errors. I mean, that to me, that handball looked clear and obvious. What is VAR there for if not to correct things like that?
I think this is where this VAR review show has to kind of go one step further. And I know it plays the audio, a month later, but I think this stuff needs to come out a bit earlier so we get the reasoning why. Again, I get why they do it, but it just seems to be a massive apology show a lot of the time. There are a few that Colin will back up and go, but it's because of X, Y, Z. But again, you can have two objective people looking at a subjective call, and both will come logically to different conclusions over it. I think this is the problem, especially things with handball. It is becoming a bit of a pain, and the problem is there's a lot of chat about unconscious bias and things like that, which is obviously for another podcast for another day. But what Ryan pointed out there is especially that Shankland handball at Ibrox. How is that not picked up? And when it is picked up, how is it going, that's fine? Especially when Shankland goes on camera, handball, I touched it. It's going to get chopped off. And what I liked about Shankland's was after that in the presser, he said it was handball. He pointed that out specifically.
It's mad.
That's mad. The Masonic referees, which actually would have been a couple of points potentially saved for us. I don't know, but if what spots and maybes, I guess. But we'll look at VAR again in a little bit because obviously there is a bit of a VAR call later on in the game. But for that first half, we didn't really do too much else. There was it was a Devaney challenge on Chamiti, which some felt could have been a yellow, could have even maybe been a red. I guess speed of the angle, the tackle, maybe it's another example, Rangers not getting the same threshold applied as maybe some other teams. I don't know. One of those, I guess. But later on in the game, if you look to the second half, well, actually, just before that, sorry, I'm going through my notes. I took notes from the game yesterday, which is ramblings of a madman, to be fair, as I'm jotting stuff down. We did have a good move around the half an hour mark. It was quite slow, but it was controlled, which is something a little bit different to what we used to see. We liked the ball being zipped around and stuff, but it was nice and controlled. Raskin out on the right, he takes the ball, stops and floats in a lovely ball to the back post. And this is obviously the goal, of course. Robbins, ball comes in. King just hasn't seen him at the back post, and he just kind of jumps up and kind of side foots it past George in goal. 1-0, a nice early-ish goal, a difficult place to go. Ryan, not exactly the earliest goal, but it's actually good to get an early goal in Paisley. It's not something we get too often, really, is it?
Yeah. And it's going to be great for the confidence of Romans. We see, we're all very excited by the signing. We see the potential in there, and the difference that he adds to the team. Especially if he's got someone in front of him. That small time that we saw him and Ant-Man linking up together was quite exciting. So hopefully this just gives him something to build on as well, and gives him confidence to actually make these runs in at the back post, because he will be found if he makes them consistently. For me, it shows you how much better he is than Jaden McComa as well, because Jaden McComa simply just wouldn't be there. And that's nothing against McComa. I think McComa's actually been probably one of our most consistent players all season, especially the fact he came as an 18-year-old boy with no professional games under his belt. But it's great to see. We are going to need goals from everybody from all over the park. If we've got any possibility, any chance whatsoever of winning this title, we need goals from every single department. So the fact that our left back's nipping in there and getting a goal, and it's a great finish as well. He's very deft in what he's done. The goalkeeper's actually done well to get across, and he spread himself really well, the goalkeeper. But it's just with the class that Romans has that he's just managed to just squeeze it past them there, and it's obviously turned out to be the winner for us. So long may it continue. Hopefully he gets another couple.
Long may it continue. Deano, he's done it a few times since coming in January, hasn't he? He'd done it against Celtic, which would have, if he would have actually scored it would have been the third goal to put us 3-0 up, and maybe we'd be sitting in a different position right now. One of those, I guess. But he does like to go in at that back post, doesn't he, Deano?
Aye, it's really refreshing to see in such a confident, attacking, driven left back. Night and day difference with Barisic, that's for sure. And somebody that can actually defend as well. It's not just in the opposition box. He's dangerous. He's also stopping crosses coming in, and he's a very, very good signing. And I'm delighted that we've been able to get in such a strong left back, because for years we obviously had a strong right back and Tav in his peak years, and I think Barisic was, well, aye, enough said about that. But my Romans for me is really, really good, and I wouldn't even be surprised if there's talk of him getting a call up to the Belgian squad, because if Raskin's getting a call up to the Belgian squad now, he's not exactly been particularly great for us, and Romans has been at least a 7 out of 10 every week since he came in, and he's probably the best left back in the league at the moment, if you ask me. So I wouldn't even be surprised at that. But yeah, hopefully we can keep on to him for 2 full seasons, and some silverware with that. But like Ryan said, long may that continue in terms of getting goals, because we're lacking goals at the moment. So it's good to see players like that chipping in.
It is good, and it's mad to see that Raskin's lost his crown as the best Belgium to play in Scotland, but luckily it's been taken by somebody else playing in our team, so it's not all too bad. It's not all too bad. Ross, there was a chance that I remember in the game. I can't remember if it was the first half or the second half, but it was a nice work short corner between Moore and Romans. He floats in a great ball to Chimiti, and somehow Chimiti managed to kind of flash it wide, and He's screaming for, I think he's reckoning there's some contact or something, so it should be maybe a corner or maybe he's looking for something else. But
Nah.
that's a bad miss, isn't it?
It's a terrible one. He's not doing anything. He's trying to cover his blushes. We've all been there. He missed a sitter, and you sort of try and claim for a corner or penalty or something. We've all done it before. It was as blatant as they come. It wasn't his finest day yesterday. And look, this is probably going to get pelters from people watching, so bring it on, guys. But I don't think any of our striking options lace the boots of Cyril Dessers at the minute. I think it's fair to say. I think you look at the players that we lost last season, and I think a striker that scores 29 goals a season would have been much welcomed in this team. And maybe it's just kind of the barometer of where we're at, that we're actually kind of, not all condemning Chimiti and Miovski and Nadiri to being absolute toilet, because they're not scoring goals when we had a guy who loved playing for us last season and was getting berated because he missed a fair few chances, but still was a bit of a bagsman. But yeah, look, I think just touching on the goal, and I'm going to disagree with Dean there, because Dean said he's the best in the league. I think he's the best in the world. I think he's the best left back in the world. Tua Romans heard it here first. Rangers Journal exclusive. Well, he could be, because he's very good. When he came in, I thought he had sort of, I thought he was going to be like a bit of a pretty boy and sort of pull out of tackles, and he's a handsome chap. And I thought, he's come in, and I thought, you know what? He's actually like tough. He's quite a tough character. He rarely smiles. He looks like he'd go through a brick wall, and he's hench. His legs have got big, strong legs. He's a great acquisition. Got under the radar somewhat when you look at the other players that were brought in, but God, can he play? I think we just need to get whoever can play in front of him, be it Antman or Gassama or Moore, and let him just absolutely nip past him and just constantly play him, because his delivery is fantastic. And rightfully said, we've had consistently for years a great delivery from Tav, and to get that from the other side now, sort of post Barisic, post Ridvan, would be superb. And maybe in his later years, Romans could pull in and be a left centre back, because he's definitely got the physique and stature for it. But yeah, look, I don't think we created much in the first half. I thought the goal was good. Where was your head at, Andy? Did you expect us to go in with being one up, or did you think this would be a protracted kind of agonising first half?
I think St Mirren were kind of looking to stay stodgy, and they weren't really breaking forward too much, especially in that first half. But the worry for us is, like you say, Ross, that everything was kind of coming from, mainly attacking wise. It was Romans, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Rangers released a stat earlier today on their Twitter page, and he was basically ranked first and second for the majority of things in the game: key passes, XG assists. He was first for passes into the box, first for successful crosses. The creativity was kind of coming from him, and he is a very strong guy. But there's always that fear when you kind of go into that second half, St Mirren, they know they're still in the game. And to be fair, we started the second half quite well, but of course, boom, we hit that second part of the game around that 60 minutes mark, Ryan, where you start going, all right, okay, St Mirren are holding the ball a little bit well here. And as you get into them kind of later embers of the game, they were coming into it a bit, weren't they, Ryan?
Yeah, they'd made a couple of substitutions. They brought on, is it Ndoubli, I think they brought on? He's obviously a big physical threat. So, and they're throwing it. They're throwing everything at us. I wasn't as nervous as other people purely because John Suter never managed to go to the park. When you see, for me, whatever confidence that I had, and it's going with John, I'm afraid, at this moment in time. This Giga Fernandez combination for me is just oozing class. With Butland behind them, whether it be Tav, whether it be Stern, whether it be Roman, I think that's where, if we get any chance, clean sheets is where I think, because I don't think we're creating enough. I don't think we've got enough goals going forward. It's clean sheets that could probably, possibly, hopefully win us this league. And even when they're throwing balls in, I think they've got to get past these two guys, two centre halves, and they've got to get past Butland as well. So, but it's the old scar tissue, it's the old twitchy bum that you get nervous, and it's the whole PTSD. We've been here before, we've blown it, and all these silly goals that we seem to lose in the past. But I just think it seems to be okay. I'd like us. I would like us to see get more goals moving forward. Coming up on Saturday, we're playing against a poor Aberdeen team who are going to finish in the bottom half of the league. The Stephen Robinson effect might have something to do with our new manager bounces stuff, but I'd like us to go out and see us batter a team over the next couple. Put a marker down that say when we get into this split, we mean business. We've got to help our goal difference because it could come to goal difference as well. I'd like to see us put a right good marker down and actually give a team a right good hiding, an absolute scalping, a 5-0 at Ibrox to really get the crowd going, to give the fans the belief, because all this sort of nervousness that you're talking about stuff, it comes to a lack of belief that we believe that this team can actually get this over the line. Give us something to believe in, give us something, show us that as much as we want this to happen, show the players need to show that they want it to happen as well.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Just to clarify something, Watup6528 said Clancy was on VAR. He wasn't on VAR yesterday. It was, so I'll go through the match officials. So Stephen McLean was, of course, the referee. VAR was Chris Graham yesterday. The assistant one was Daniel McFarlane. Assistant ref 2 on the line, Frank Connor. Fourth official was Dan McFarlane. Oh, so 2, okay. And assistant VAR was Graham Leslie. So Dan McFarlane on fourth official and Daniel McFarlane, assistant referee 1. That Christmas cast list must be difficult to work out, but there we go. So that's just to clarify that. Obviously, we're into the second half. They grew. I think they had about one chance that I can really remember where James Tavernier, of course, got caught. The ball in the air. I think it came out to Young. He got into the box, gets a shot away, but luckily from the angle, it's limping wide. This is around about the 86-minute mark. And then around the full time, Raskin, he does well to kind of intercept the ball as Simpmanen are trying to play out from the back, plays it out to Miovski, the substitute, finds Moore out the left hand side of the box. Moore takes the time, plays it to Asgard, who actually had a pretty okay game when he was on, grabs himself a goal, looked like 2-0. However, the flag was up straight away from offside from Frank Connor. A quick check and it's ruled out. So, Ross, I'm going to come to you first here. Let's talk about these lines now. I'm going to show you the first image. I'm only joking. That's not the real one. It's as good as. So there's a kind of zoomed in image. No enhancement done at all. This came straight from the highlights on YouTube. So that's kind of a bit more of a close up. Now, obviously, you can see issues here with pixelation. You're trying to get a definite where the toe is, where everything is. It's just blocks, and it's a bit of a mess. You look at it a little bit further out. We're seeing some very thick lines. There's it without the lines. Naked eye. It's quite interesting that the linesman could see that from there, to be fair, considering he's still running down the line and a little bit behind the play. Is it a little bit zoomed in without the lines? And there we go. There's another kind of image of it there.
That's your best angle, isn't it?
That is the best angle, yeah. Ross, is it offside for you, or is it just the way that this has been presented to us just makes it look a bit of a mess?
Well, there's one thing that I saw earlier. If you can just flash that back up again, Andy. Between the two different ones. So that one, you can see O'Hara, the closest St Mirren defender to Moore, his foot is planted. And the ball has just been released. On that one, his toe is up. So there is a difference in the still that was used by the VAR team than that was used by the thing. And if you can imagine, Asgard is steaming in at that point. So the difference in probably his distance over that split second is probably, I don't know, 4-5 inches, maybe difference. I don't know, or the speed of it. I think what we need to say first and foremost is the technology they've got is absolute village stuff. That is like CCTV camera. It's like that. It seriously is. How on earth, as a product that wants to be on the global stage, have they not invested in higher quality equipment than that? I mean, there should be a camera that is consistently running the line parallel to where the ball is at all times. Like that is not hard technology to instill on a runner on the side of a stand. That is basic technology that is consistently always in line with the ball or the last man. That's very basic technology. I didn't think it was offside, and I'm normally one who doesn't like to entertain conversations of any bad decisions or anything, because I think you get some, you lose some, and that's football. But I think that if you look at that one, and then I don't want to, this is a Rangers podcast, but the one that Nygren scored for them the other week, that was baffling. He looked miles offside, absolutely staggering. That was given as a goal. And yet the Asgard one here isn't. Genuinely, I think it's an absolute joke. It's a very fine line that we tread here between calling something out and airing our grievances. But at the same time, I mean, we're looking at two similar instances. I mean, yeah, Ryan, where's your head up with it, mate? It'd be great to get your thoughts.
It's just absolutely crap, mate. It's crap. The whole thing about it is just rubbish. The technology, the decision making, the length of time it takes to make decisions, it's rubbish. It's like going to war with a water pistol. It's absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. Yeah. How they can make these millimeters of decisions with cameras that are just not up to scratch at all. If even, can you bring it back up again, Andy, as well? Sorry, just the
sure can.
One without the lines. It's almost like everyone's kind of looking at his knee, because his knee seems to be the furthest part of his body forward, right? But it's also it's not even where the ball's planted, it's the curvature of the ball, remember? So he has to be some part of his body has to be ahead of the curvature. But the curvature of the ball is actually over the line into the lighter part of the park. Yeah. So it's nonsense, but you've hit it on the nail with the Nygren goal was up at Pittodrie. That's that's the prime example. It's like,
couldn't even see the ball.
Aye, it's just let it go. Let it go. He looks so saying there. Just let it go. There's a benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt should always be towards the attacking player. You can't say he's not definitely offside. If you can't say he's definitely offside, you give the goal.
Yeah, I honestly think that in situations like this, it gets brushed under. And Deano, it'd be good to get your thoughts. It gets brushed under because this hasn't had a pivotal impact on the rest of the game. They're almost probably begging at this stage that Asgard misses so that it becomes an irrelevant topic. Do you remember at Easter Road last year, Deano? I'm sure you do. It'll be etched in your brain when Raskin scored and it was over the line and they didn't give it. And we've almost all, in some way, let that slip because it didn't have a pivotal impact or detrimental impact on the outcome of the thing. But that is not good enough. I know you feel passionate about it, Dean.
Hi. It's funny though that the linesman was a few yards behind play and there was zero hesitation to raise the flag. Yet any other time in the league there's an offside, they don't even raise their flag because they don't want to get it wrong and allow it to go to VAR. Now, the fact that the referee went with what the linesman said, even though the linesman was behind play, is again baffling. The referee goes to the linesman because he can't see. So he's putting the trust in the linesman that the linesman is 100% convinced that it's offside. It is unequivocally impossible for him to know that that's offside. Like there's no way on this earth that that's possible for him to know that was offside. And this, you're right, because it's the game's won. It's not going to get highlighted. And we talked earlier about Colin coming out with his VAR, so it should be every Monday like they do on Sky Ref Watch. It should be Ref Watch in SPL. And I mean, what else does he do? Like for 29 days of the month. So in my opinion, he should be out every Monday going over all the decisions that have went. All the decisions that can be disputed, put it that way. And what I will say as well, that the fact that last season was the ball hitting the net twice and it was a dead rubber against Hibs. And again, that wasn't, you're right, Ross, that never gets talked about because it was a goal that was, a disallowed goal that was irrelevant to the outcome of the league as such. So until we start getting better sponsorship deals, TV and things like that. We're going to have a substandard technology set up in the league, and that's unfortunately the way. But that, you know, we should be able to have a better system than we've got. And you're right, Ross. We want to be a nation that's respected and stuff. Well, you're not going to be getting respect when you've got decisions like that. And as well, see this, the crap rule that it is. It's draining what football's all about. Football's about goals. People watch football because of goals. It's just draining the life out of the game. You didn't go to Ibrox to sit in a 1-0 win with 3 decisions that are disputed and go against you. You know, we watch football because we want to see goals. This is just draining the excitement out of the game. And I mean, like, I know I've got a wee girl, and if she grows up to, want to go to Ibrox and that, and I feel sorry for that generation, I really do, because football, watching that is just crap. As Ryan said, it's just crap all over.
You're not wrong, Deano. I do agree. Some of the excitement has been stripped out of football, not just with VAR, but with some of the way that there's decisions. The Wenger kind of law, so to speak, could be a way of making it a little bit better. Benefit of the doubt. That's be daylight, things like that. But I'm sure things will be tweaked at some point. But as it stands, luckily we got a 1-0 win. We have won. We've won an away game, our first in 4, and we've now closed the gap to 3 points on leaders' Hearts, 1 point behind Celtic in second. And, of course, we have Aberdeen at 5:45 on Saturday evening. So the Rangers Journal will be covering all that this week. Just before we wrap up, don't forget, of course, as broken by Raskin Socks on Twitter earlier today, Jim Gillespie has been announced as the new Rangers chief executive. So he's finally in place. So hopefully over the next few weeks, we will see some senior leadership at the club, and be able to hopefully get us forwards with a lot of things off the park. But don't forget, like and subscribe to the Rangers Journal, and of course the Ibrox channel as well. But I'd just like to thank everyone. Ross, thank you for coming on tonight, mate.
No problem at all. Great to be here. Let's keep this momentum going.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a win. There's 8 more games to go. Let's try and win them all, definitely. Deano, thank you for coming on, mate. It's a pleasure as always.
Yeah, thanks for me. Pleasure and privilege as always, and good to get my thoughts across with the boys.
It's a good venting session, isn't it? It's a good venting session. I can't even say it. Well done, Deano. And last but not least, Ryan, thank you for coming on. Always good to see you, pal.
Aye, thanks for having us, guys. Hopefully another good week ahead.
Aye, definitely. Every night is a Rangers Journal night. Like and subscribe on all. We're on all the socials. So do like, subscribe and follow and turn your notifications on. And you'll know when the Rangers Journal is live. Lots coming from the Rangers Journal this week. So do look out. Every night's Rangers Journal night. Take care.
Every night is the Rangers Journal night.